What is going on, Niner fans? As we know, the 49ers took an L today, but, I think the day was salvaged a little bit. If there is a day, any salvaging after a loss with the Eagles. The Eagles lost today to the New York Jets earlier this afternoon. As we all know, the Eagles are the top, competitors that the 49ers face, really. And, they knocked the 49ers out of the NFC Championship game last year. But it feels like those are the two teams destined to make it back to the NFC Championship. But you know what? It was nice to see Robert Salah and his defense. That defense was crazy. It was a weird day in the NFL. The 49ers, they lose to a team with a backup quarterback and a top five defense. The Eagles, they lose to a backup quarterback and a top five defense. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is out. So, Zach Wilson is playing for the Jets. But, they came out, man, and that defense was suffocating Jalen Hurts. And today, I know Brock Purdy didn't have his best game. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst performance of the day, but it wasn't definitely not Brock Purdy's best game. This was his worst game. I think we all are in agreement to that. But it took everything to go wrong for the 49ers to lose, right? Brock Purdy had a bad game. He missed some passes. Ayuk had some drops. The refs made some bad calls. There was a lot of injuries, and all of that. And the 49ers still had a chance to march down the field and win the game. They missed some field goals, and that last one was that was it. Moody misses the field goal at the end. Obviously, he missed one earlier in the game, too. All that happened for 49ers to lose this game. So, you got to hang your hat on that. And the Eagles, man, they just have not looked as dominant as, everybody expects them to be. Last year, they had an easy schedule out the gates, and they were crushing teams. Jalen Hurts has 7 interceptions right now. He threw 3 today. And, people are making excuses for Jalen Hurts and saying, oh, look, Brock Purdy didn't play good. Hey, I'm not going to say that he played good, but people are not realizing that. No Debo, no Trent Williams, no CMC. That's huge, man. And I think people need to realize how important CMC is to this 49ers offense. He was, the MVP of this team. And I think we realize that. Now, there are some concerns with those 3 players. Trent Williams was seen in a boot. He played through an ankle injury. That's a tough one to me. I mean, he did play through it. He didn't want Jalen Moore to go out there and have to go up against Myles Garrett. So respect to Trent Williams, man, playing through the ankle injury. Debo's got a shoulder, a negative x-ray. So now they got to look at the MRI. Christian McCaffrey, he's got an oblique injury. And those injuries are tough because we have to figure out what the tests say, what the MRIs and the x-rays and everything says on the oblique. That is a pain tolerance issue. It's all about tolerating pain. Did he fracture anything? Did he strain something? We'll really see tomorrow when we get all the injury updates. So for the 49ers to lose this game, it took literally the jaws of life to come down and strike upon them. And it was, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and they still almost won. So, again, you got to realize the 49ers, the week was salvaged to me with the Eagles losing. So I'm happy. I'm cool. It is what it is. 3 teams are 5-1 now in the NFC. Now, this is where we got to really start to focus. And, again, it's week 6 now, just ended. 6 weeks of the season has finally done. And there's 17 games. And now we have to start looking at the schedule and seeing, are the 49ers, are they down for some tough games coming up? Are they going to be able to, win some of these next few games with injuries? We don't know how long these players are going to be out. But, Monday night against the Vikings, it's definitely not going to be an easy game. No game's ever easy. But, it definitely won't be easier if Debo's not there, if CMC is not there, Trent Williams is not there. So, 49ers have to continue to win these games, and they have to stay on pace with these other teams in the NFC. If you look at it, the Lions are 5-1. They only lost 1 game. They beat the Chiefs opening night. This is a team that the 49ers might need to keep an eye on. The Lions are going to beat up on a very easy division. They got bad teams. They got the Vikings, Packers, the Bears. Those 3 teams are not looking too hot. Lions are, tearing it up. And, if you remember last year, the 49ers went undefeated in their division. That was huge for them. I can see the Lions doing the same thing. They might go undefeated in the NFC North. So, got to keep an eye on this team. They're a young team. They're hungry. They got a great coach who's really instilled a confidence on them. They got a veteran quarterback that people gave up on, Jared Goff. He's turned his career around. So, I think the Lions are a team that you got to really, really keep an eye on. And, 49ers, they're next 2 opponents, before the bye week. You get the Vikings primetime game, and then you have the Bengals, who are starting to surge. They got a tough team, and now with Joe Burrow starting to play good again, it's a little concerning. So 1 week at a time. Again, the 49ers got hit in the mouth, but they can regroup and kind of get things back under control against the Vikings the next week. We know Kirk Cousins is not great in prime time. They don't have Justin Jefferson, but you can't count any team out. I mean, we counted out the Browns. I think a lot of us did, and I think the Niners need to realize, like, hey, man, we just got kicked in the teeth, and we got to learn from this game. Again, I think they're going to learn from this. It was nice to have the loss, I guess, out of your system. You know, they've been winning a lot of games regular season. They weren't losing games, and they finally did. And I think this is a game they're all going to reflect on, and maybe they go on another streak. You know, sometimes it's good to lose as long as it's not in the playoffs. So let's take a look at the questions. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I know it's late. I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit more. Fern says it's sickening that people are happy Purdy got exposed and wishing for his downfall. You know, it is weird, man. If you're a Niner fan and you're hating on Brock, it's crazy. I mean, this was his worst game of his career. One time. I mean, he's bound to have a few bad games. I mean, look at some of these other quarterbacks. Again, Jalen Hurts, you know, Patrick Mahomes has had some bad games, right? Josh Allen has had some bad games. Bills almost lost that game to the Giants. The Chiefs barely beat the Broncos. So, you know, no quarterback's perfect, but I feel like the narrative over the last couple of weeks was Brock Purdy, he's so good, he's him, he's elite, this and that. And I think it was kind of a humbling experience for Brock and the 49ers. So people are going to hate. The media is going to trash him. And that's just what we got to expect. That's what we got to expect. The media is going to trash Brock Purdy. They're going to sit there and have these crazy takes. And the narrative is going to be, oh, see, I told you so. He's assistant quarterback. But again, they don't realize Trent was out. You know, it took everything that to go wrong to beat the Niners. And he still put them in position to win that game. Like that last drive, that is what mattered to me. I was like, okay, even though he didn't play the best game of his career, even though he made a lot of mistakes, he still drove that team down the field and put them in position to win. Now, Jake Moody needs to make that kick. And, you know, he's facing a lot of backlash, Jake Moody. But he's going to because he is a third-round kicker. There's a lot of pressure. But a lot of kickers were missing kicks today. But Jake Moody, you know, this was the first time he's faced pressure his whole career. And he didn't respond too well. You know, he did have some pressure situations in the preseason. I remember when they iced him and he missed. And now I feel like in those big moments, he's going to have a lot of pressure, and he has to learn. He has to figure it out because this isn't going to be the biggest game of Jake Moody's career, but this right now so far was. And, you know, it was tough weather conditions, you know, hostile environment. You're losing, you're down. You know, it was a pressure cooker game. It was a close game, and he just didn't deliver. So, unfortunately for him, the fans are going to backlash him. We had Robbie Gould, who didn't miss in clutch situations. So, I mean, I feel like every criticism about him is warranted. I'm upset that he missed. You know, I do feel bad for Jake Moody, but again, they put him in this position. He's a third-round kicker, and the fans are going to sit there and say, hey, we could have had a right tackle. We could have had this. We could have had that. And I totally get it. So he has to continue to improve upon this because Brock Purdy put him in position to win. That at the end of the day, as bad as the Niners played, they still had a chance to win this game. So that's kind of where I feel like, okay, it wasn't that bad of a loss. And again, the Eagles lost too. So I'm happy. I'm chilling. I'm worried about the Lions more than anybody than the Eagles, honestly. I really am. Let's talk about the Eagles schedule. So again, the Eagles lost today to the Jets. They got a tough schedule coming out. Let's talk about it. They got the Eagles, the Eagles have the Dolphins next week. Then they play the Commanders. And I know the Commanders are 3-3. They're a tough team. They're a good defensively sound team, and they give the Eagles struggles. They've beaten the Eagles before. They play the Cowboys, division game. Anything can happen. Then they play the Chiefs. Holy smoke. They play the Chiefs after the Cowboys. Then they play the Bills. They play the Chiefs, the Bills, and then they play the 49ers. And then after the 49ers, they play the Cowboys and then the Seahawks. Philadelphia, this loss for them, this is why I'm not too worried about the 49ers loss, because this loss was massive for the Eagles. They got exposed. The defense crushed them. The Jets defense absolutely embarrassed Jalen Hurts. And I don't want to hear anything. I know some people say, oh, the receivers caused it. Doesn't matter. You don't give the same energy to Brock Purdy. He had injuries. People were sitting there raking me over the coals. I posted on SportsCenter, like, let's talk about Jalen Hurts' 3 interceptions. Oh, 2 of them were caused by the receiver. He was throwing prayers up to his receivers, trying to get PI, and he got exposed by two backup cornerbacks. So I don't want to hear it. Brock Purdy, as bad as the game he had, he didn't throw 3 picks. If Brock Purdy would have threw 3 picks today, the media would have crushed this man, put him in a blender. So it's not fair. It's not fair and that's what, again, I'm not worried too much because the Eagles have a tough schedule. If they're really good, they'll come out and crush. Last year they had a cupcake schedule. They had a cavity with how easy those games were, with how cupcakey they were. Next week, again, Dolphins, Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. Philadelphia, worry about it. They better be praying and worrying about their schedule. Yeah. Fern, they're right. The Eagles fans should be worried right now with their upcoming schedule. They absolutely should. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's up, Agent E? The loss of the game because of penalties. Yeah, let's talk about that. Penalties were ugly. And I hate to blame refs. I hate to use that as an excuse. But if you saw that game, there were some bad, just horrible calls, man. And there wasn't just that Niners game. There were bad calls all over the NFL today. The NFL officiating is just pure trash, pure garbage. They need to figure it out because that Niners game was terrible with the officiating. They were not consistent. That Bills-Giants game, that last play of the game, Tyrod goes up, passes it to Darren Waller. Dude's getting held. Jersey's getting held. They didn't call nothing. Brian Dable's like, what the hell's going? No penalty. The officiating crews are not consistent. So I agree. I don't want to blame the whole loss on penalties, but those penalties did not help the 49ers. They have to, I want to sit here and say clean it up, be more disciplined, but they weren't even bad. Like, they weren't even, to me, they weren't penalties. The Tashawn Gibson play was crazy. Crazy. How is he, what else is he supposed to do? He tried to go down. He didn't put his helmet on him. Like they said, a defenseless receiver. He's in the middle of the air. What's he supposed to do? Like, turn into the Nightcrawler and transport? Can't do that. And then the Mooney Ward holding call after that was silly. It was like literally right after. That was terrible. The fumble, that should have been a fumble, that wasn't a fumble. That was wild, right? The 49ers should have got a fumble right before the halftime. It's just bad officiating, man. It was bad. It was bad. Sati says, literally everything had to go wrong for us to lose today. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm not worried. Like, I'm okay with this loss. It is what it is. Browns are tough. They hit us in the mouth, man. They kicked our teeth in. And I think the 49ers weren't ready for that. Again, they traveled. I think they were tired. They've been on a blistering pace. They've been kicking teams around, and I think it just caught up to them today. No excuses. The Niners got beat. They got hurt. And I think the biggest focus is let's hope and pray that these injuries are not too bad. So that's like the biggest thing is that the injuries are not too bad, because if they are, we'll be in some trouble coming up in these next few games. I really hope that these injuries are, not ones that are going to be causing players to miss for a long, long time. But again, the Browns are a good team. I think that's something people aren't, giving them enough credit. Again, people are saying, oh my God, you lost to the Browns and a third string quarterback. No, we lost to the Browns defense, man. They, again, hit us in the mouth. Like, the only quarterback to really have a decent game against them was Lamar Jackson. He was 15 for 19, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That was the best performance to get him. He didn't even get 200 yards. Burrow, 14 for 31, 82 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions. Pickett was 15 out of 30, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Tannehill was 13 out of 25, 104 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Purdy, 12 for 27, 125 yards, touchdown, interception. Like, teams have not played well against the Browns. Browns defense, man. Like, they don't. Quarterbacks are getting cooked up. And that's what it is. And also, you got to give defensive coordinator Schwartz for the Browns. Schwartz owns Kyle Shanahan. He is, 10-1 lifetime against Kyle Shanahan. He cooked him up again. Put him in a blender, man. Schwartz owned him. And that's another part. Like, it sucks. Kyle Shanahan got it. He got out coached. He lost CMC, and I feel like he just froze up. And that was another thing. Losing CMC was huge. He is the catalyst of this offense, him and Debo. And I think today we really learned that Christian McCaffrey, he's our MVP. He's our MVP. Terrence says their defense showed up and the better team won today. Suffered tons of injuries. Yeah, they were the better team today, and I'm, not afraid to say that. Um, tough injuries today. They were healthy today, coming into this game relatively. I mean, they only had Dre Greenlaw hurt, who we'll talk about him. A massive loss today, not having Dre Greenlaw in there. They were healthy, and now they don't have Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey after the game. Plus, Dre Greenlaw is still dealing with his injury. So it was an ugly game to lose. It wasn't just that we lost the game; we lost players. And to me, that's the biggest issue that happened in this game was the fact that, yeah, okay, we lost. You're going to lose some games. Like I'm okay. The Niners are going to lose some games. No team's going undefeated. But the fact that they lost those games or those players in this game, that's what kills me, man. That's what kills me. Just like I said, you can kind of feel that CMC has been kind of wearing down these last 2 weeks. Like he hasn't been his explosive self. Teams have been stuffing him. Like these teams are truly headhunting. They're targeting CMC. Whatever you want to say, like whatever you want to think. Like if you don't think so, I watch these games, man. They are coming right after CMC. Every time he gets the ball, they're swarming him. It's tough, man. But at the end of the day, a game like this, right, it builds character. You learn from it. Fred Warner said it perfectly. It's one of those games where if they want to be where they want to be, they got to go through moments like this, some adversity. They really hadn't had any adversity this year. Last year they had tons of it. The year before they had tons of it. Over the last couple of years, the Niners were a team that faced a lot of adversity, right? A lot of injuries, slow starts. And this is finally a game that kind of like hit them in the mouth, gut check, and was like, okay, we lost this game. We got to figure some things out. So that's what it was. And again, I know a lot of people are going to blame Jake Moody. And again, he had a horrible game. You have to hit those kicks. As a kicker, you have to hit those kicks, right? But Brandon Ayuk, I want to talk about Brandon Ayuk because I love Brandon Ayuk. That's my dog. That's my guy. We all talking about it. Pay BA, pay Brandon Ayuk. We're already going to get the campaign. Like, I'm already getting the campaign started when it needs to be. But if you're a wide receiver one, you want to get the big money, you got to make those catches. Big-time players make big-time catches. Like, I know Brock didn't have a great game, but Brandon Ayuk did not have a good game. And Kyle said it. They all, like, it wasn't just Jake. A lot of players played poorly tonight. Brandon Ayuk, I love him, man. And again, it's not a disrespect to him. He definitely played bad today. He dropped passes. He wide open in his hand. You want the wide receiver one money, go make that catch. Make the catch. This was an uncharacteristic game for him. He usually is money. He catches those balls. His hands are great. Today, it didn't look like it. Today, Brandon Ayuk, when I say this, he had cocoa butter and oil on his hands. Big Time says, I don't understand how Kittle only gets one target. And I thought about this too. Like, why was Kittle only getting one? Especially when Debo's out, when CMC's out, you got to try to get him the ball. Again, Kyle was shook without CMC. I think he was really lost in this game. Purdy was too. They were really backed up. I do think they should have got the ball to Kittle more. Now, I got to watch the film. I got to watch the game again to really see. Because I was talking about this with someone. Was Kittle being used more as a blocker? Was he being used more as an inline blocker instead of being out in routes? Like, I got to look at that a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it was because he was being used as a blocker, but whatever the case is, I agree. George Kittle, especially coming off a 3-touchdown game. George Kittle's coming off a 3-touchdown game, my boy. You got to give him the ball. Maybe more than one target. So, yeah, David, pass rush was eating the O-line. It was cooking. Trent was playing on a bad ankle. Colton McKivitz was playing. That O-line was getting cooked and souffled. Myles Garrett, he's a beast. He came to play. Showboat says everyone will say Purdy under pressure is not the same, which is not true because under pressure against the Giants, he was able to get rid of the ball and, get the ball into his players' hands. But today, if you really think about it, again, he didn't have Debo. He didn't have CMC. Half his targets were limited. And he just couldn't get the ball rid of in time. Like, they were coming at the Niners so fast. The O-line could not protect Brock. Like, it was bad. It wasn't just Brock. It was the O-line. Receivers were dropping passes. So, a little bit more to it than just Brock having a bad day. Like, that O-line was getting cooked and souffled. And, again, shout out to Trent Williams, man. He played through an ankle injury because he didn't want Jalen Moore to go out there and play against Myles Garrett. Can you imagine if Trent had to leave the game? He should have. He probably should have. He probably screwed his ankle more. but he is so like he wanted to have that matchup against Myles Garrett, man. Like this is the first time he ever played against him. He talked up a big game the other day. He said, he's worried, he's losing sleep. Like I think this was a game that Trent wanted to like prove to himself. He's been in the league for a long time. I think Trent wanted this. This was like a measuring stick game because Myles is one of the best young players. Like he's young, man. He's in the prime of his career. Trent, he's still a great player. He's still a Hall of Fame player. Like he's great, but he's not in the prime of his career. Like it's not a slight towards him. I think Trent needed this game to like say, yo, I'm still that guy. I'm still the best tackle in the league. I'm gonna take Myles Garrett and wash him out of this game. Like he wanted to be that guy. Now, had he left and played it the safe way, I think Jalen Moore would have got wrecked and Brock Purdy would have got his shit pushed it even more. Like he got thrown around. Brock did get thrown around. This is the worst game we've seen of Brock in terms of not being able to escape the blitz. But if Jalen Moore was in there, oh God. And I think that's why Trent was like, look, man, I got to play against Myles Garrett and prove my worth, man. Respect to Trent, man. The guy's a dog. He's a fighter. But, I mean, I think he should have done the safe route. But, again, if we would have went through that safe route, Jalen Moore, I don't know what would have happened. And it's crazy because Niners still could have won after all that. Julius says, yeah, I feel like Purdy needed a game like this to get rid of any pressure of him needing to be perfect. I think so, too. I think this was actually a great thing for Brock because I think he's been playing under an intense amount of pressure. He's under a huge microscope. I mean, that's what every quarterback is under, but 49ers quarterbacks specifically, they're always, under the pressure cooker situation. Kyle Shanahan's never had a dull moment with quarterbacks, so I feel like everybody's waiting for Brock to slide. Everybody's waiting for him to make a mistake. Everybody's waiting for him to have a shitty game, and he did. And now I think for him to get this out of the way, now he can bounce back and say, okay, that was a bad game. This is what it feels like. He really hasn't had a bad game. He's had some moments, some bad moments, but he's never had like a really bad game. Every week it's like, oh my God, Brock, baby. It was good for him. I think it's a humbling experience for him, this team. And he'll learn, he'll grow. He's smart. He's 23 years old, man. Yeah. 510 Bay Area says Cooper cooked corner on the side. I mean, that play right there. So it was Mooney Ward. You guys remember that play? So second half, third quarter. I mean, he cooked more than this play, but the play that I think you might be talking about is just that sideline. Oh my God! I mean, just dart. Mooney Ward played it perfect. Mooney played him good, and Cooper came up with an incredible catch. You couldn't have covered him better than that. And but yeah, Cooper played good today, man. Shout out to Coop. He's still great. He's a good route runner, and he showed that hey, he's not washed, and he's good receiver, man. Cooper Cup, Amari Cooper played his butt off, man. Amari Cooper played his tail off today. He was tough, but I feel like the 49ers secondary wasn't horrible. If they get hurt, it's going to be dangerous for this team, and that's where I feel like the 49ers secondary will need depth. Because Lenore played good. I mean, he had a few moments where he slipped and he had some cramps, but he wasn't perfect. He made some mistakes, but he did make some big time clutch plays. Mooney Ward made some nice plays here and there. Isaiah Oliver's a little inconsistent. He was missing a lot of tackles early on, but I feel like if one of those three gets hurt, 49ers have to use Ambry Thomas. It's over, man. Well, as soon as Ambry comes in, teams are throwing deep. They know that he cannot guard. He just can't cover. They know he's a liability. As soon as Ambry comes in, man, it's scary hours. Like, holy smokes. The Niners do need a cornerback. It may not be a starter, but they need some depth because if any of those guys get hurt that we just talked about, those three starters, if they get hurt, man, stick a fork in them. It's a pen, but, you get the metaphor. Run D was an issue. Let's talk about a throwback. You're absolutely right. Dre Greenlaw, and I tweeted this out. Dre Greenlaw was missed in the middle there at linebacker. Like, yes, the linebackers had some moments. They played good. They had some big plays. Fred Warner is Fred Warner. He played great. Obviously, he's going to. But overall, linebackers and the D-line, front seven, they couldn't stop the run, ladies and gentlemen. They could not stop the run. And that starts with the linebackers. And Dre Greenlaw, like, he is on another level. You can tell that they needed him. They needed him because they didn't have that aggressiveness They didn't have that sideline to sideline ability. They couldn't stop. They couldn't get the hat. As soon as the ball, gets snapped, usually Dre Greenlaw's like right there. He's right there. He's right at the runner. Not today. They were running and gunning. They were running. They were running on. This is the worst, run defensive game I've seen all season by this team. You're right. Dre Greenlaw was missed. I hope he comes back because they need him. That guy's really good. That guy's really, really good. So, see. My man, appreciate you. Susan says, honestly, we have enough talent that we should be able to win without CMC and Debo. It just was one of those weeks, Susan. It was just one of those weeks. It was one of those games where things caught up to them. I think it rattled them. When you lose players like that in the middle of a game, like it just throws your whole, game plan out. And I think again, the Browns were prepared. They hit us in the mouth. They had an extra week off. They had the bye week. I think Schwartz, he knows Kyle. He knows how to dial up certain plays to beat Kyle, and just had us ready. It just was one of those weeks. I think the Niners still should have been able to beat the Browns. Like you said, they still have enough talent to win, but it wasn't just CMC and Debo, because it was Trent Williams too. He was playing on a bad ankle. Dre Greenlaw, and then at the end it was just bad execution, missing field goals. Missing those field goals was huge. Fat Albert says, "What's good, soldier? I'm glad I caught you live. Now let's get it. Appreciate you, my man." We just couldn't run the ball. Yeah, without CMC, it was tough. Like Kyle just couldn't figure it out. I feel like Mason had some nice runs towards that second half. I think they need to get Mason a little bit more involved. Maybe throw him a bone a little bit more. Get him his rhythm. You got to get him his rhythm. Susan says, "I'm just saying, general, not today." Yeah, no, 100%. You're absolutely right. Niners still could have, and they still could have won today. They just got hit in the mouth. But you're absolutely right. Even without CMC and Debo, I still think the Niners, you're right. They could beat most of these teams in the league. I don't want to get too cocky, but the Niners they still should probably be the best team in the NFL when the rankings come out. Now, we'll see how the teams are ranked. Again, I don't care about them, but if you really take a look at this talent, I mean, it was one game to a really good defense. The Browns' defense is great, right? And it took everything to go wrong against us to lose. So I still think they're the best team. Throwback says, agree, and Kyle looked lost without CMC. He didn't know what to do. Yeah. He was off his game plan today. Like, again, we talk, like, everybody wants to talk about Brock Purdy being rattled, which he was. You could tell he was like so stressed today. This is the one time I saw Brock Purdy so far just not poised until that 2-minute drive at the end. Like, Brock was ice in the veins. I tweeted out, I was like, it's time to see if Brock has ice in his veins. And he did. And everybody in the comments was like, well, Jake Moody does it. I was like, well, yeah, I should have tweeted this. I should have tweeted, time to see if Jake Moody has ice in the veins. Blame me. I should have tweeted that out, because then he would have proved me right. He had nobody to prove. But you're right. I think Kyle was shook. He was confused, confumbled. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you lose players in the middle of a game, it just throws you off. And the Browns were throwing a lot of stuff on him. This was a good question. Sergio says, what do I think about Randy Gregory? Randy Gregory, man. Okay, so I know it's been negative, and we were talking about all the things that the 49ers didn't do well. Let's talk about Randy Gregory. Randy Gregory was the silver lining for the 49ers. I mean, there was a few bright spots, right? Not many, but Randy Gregory was a huge silver lining. Moving forward, he's going to be a very important player to this team. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. He had like 3 tackles. He was everywhere, man. I really like what I saw of Randy Gregory. It's his first game with the Niners, right? First game, he played 3 practices, and he came out cooking, man. He was nice. I really liked what I saw of Randy Gregory. He made instant impact, man. That was, again, definitely a player that was really ready to play. I mean, you could tell he was juiced up. I mean, he's coming from the Broncos, a horrible team. He was probably ready to go out there and get this dub. And then he's like, "No, we lose. I came on to the best team in the NFL, and I lost." I was joking with my friend. We were talking after. I talked to a lot of people today, but one of my friends, we were talking. I was like, "Do you think Randy Gregory brought the loser vibes from Denver?" And he's like, "No." But anyway, we were just joking. And I was like, maybe he brought loser vibes, like the losing curse from the Broncos. I was like, no. But I mean, That's gotta suck. You went from like the most garbage team, you come to the best team, and then you can't even win your first game. But I think we'll be fine. It's just a joke. Because last year when CMC first game he came on to the Niners, they lost. And I remember my friend, that same person, I had the same conversation, and I was like, did he bring bad juju from the Panthers? Did he bring losing vibes? And then we went on a grand winning streak. So now, 49ers, thank me later. 49ers will go on a grand winning streak because I had that conversation, just like they did last year. Do I think there would have been a difference if D Winter started today? Oh, we haven't seen enough of the rookies. I think he's going to be talented. I think he's going to be a good player. But, I mean, DFF, Oren Burks, they played okay. I know I'm not a big DFF guy. I'll be honest with you. I've never been a big Demetrius Flanagan Fowles guy. So maybe D Winters would have been a better option than DFF. Maybe. I would have liked to see. Let the young buck cook. Let him see. I mean, it couldn't have been worse than today. They were getting gashed. And D Winters might have played hungry. So I would have liked to see it. Fat Albert says, way before the season, they said Moody was suspect. And if it came down to field goals to win, it would be crucial. Well, if that's what they said, he definitely proved that right because he was not good today. And I feel bad for him. But at the end of the day, you're a kicker. That's the job. Got to make them. You got to make those kicks, man. You could have missed 2 field goals before that game-winning field goal. Like, you could have missed everything up to that point. You get to that point, that moment right there, game-winning field goal, everything on the line. You make that, nobody cares that you missed the other field goal, 54-yarder. That's a tough one. Nobody cares. You make that field goal, you're the man. You're going to get hyped up. Everybody's going to talk about you. Look at Jake Moody. You're getting every single flower. You're getting roses. You're getting sunflowers. You're getting poinsettias. You're getting it all, baby. You're getting flowered. But you missed that kick, and now you're getting shitted on. And, hey, again, I feel bad for the man, but you got to make those kicks. You're getting paid to make those kicks. A lot of kickers missed today. But the point is, third-round kicker, people are going to come for his neck because they could have drafted a right tackle, cornerback, a lot of other positions. They went for a kicker. That's all I'm going to say. It sucks for him. I feel bad for him. But you got one job, my guy. Now they're comparing. I saw somebody, I don't know if it was a tweet or a story post or something. I saw someone post like he reminded them of, it said Jake Moody tonight, and it was a picture of Jose Cortez. Y'all remember Jose Cortez? He was a horrible kicker for the 49ers. And I just almost choked on my water. I was like, oh God. That's bad to be carried compared to. My man Shobo says, I still say the Niners need a bigger back to rotate with CMC, especially against the AFC. I mean, I like Mason, man. I think Mason's that guy, but Kyle has a hard time not giving the ball to anybody else not named CMC. Like, he loves CMC. He's so good. But after tonight, I think we realized, you got to figure it out. You got to get these other guys the ball. But you're right. Guys like Mitchell, he's not built big enough, and that's why he gets hurt. Mason's good, though. He's got a little size to him. But we could use a bigger. We could get a much more thicker guy. I agree with that. Throwback says, why am I worried? I'm more worried about the injuries. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I agree. Throwback. I hope Debo, CMC, and Trent are okay. To me, that's the biggest outcome of this loss. To me, that's the worst part of this loss is the fact that the 49ers had some big injuries, right? Should the 49ers trade for Najee Harris? I mean, they got CMC. I think we're okay. We have one game, and people are going to want every other player that, running back, this and that. I mean, yeah, it's concerning that CMC's got a little bit of an injury, but, I think we'll be okay. We'll get the bye week coming up in a few weeks. They got to weather the storm. And, again, Jordan Mason should be able to handle business next week, against the Minnesota Vikings. I think if CMC has to miss a game, I think Jordan Mason can cook it up. Susan says, they haven't tasted a loss since the NFC Championship. This could galvanize them. They may never lose again this season. That's true. They went on a run last year when they went on a crazy Linsanity run. This is the first loss in the regular season in 15 games? So they were cooking. The NFC Championship game was tough, but they also had an injury to Brock Purdy. And this, again, it always shows us when injuries happen to the 49ers, it's just not good. Bad things happen. It screws you up. And people could say, are you using injuries for an excuse? Yeah, absolutely. Injuries change everything for a team. You don't want to play like if you're not at your full strength. Obviously, you're going to be a weaker team. Like it's just common sense to me. But people get mad when you say, "Oh, well, you blame it on injuries." Well, yeah, sometimes injuries are to blame. It changes your whole team, your whole game plan. When you get hurt, it changes how you're playing the game and your adjustments. You can't make the same adjustments, and you kind of up against it. Your back's up against the wall. And the Browns, again, they took advantage. They were playing as an underdog. They had a chip on their shoulder. They came into this game. Last week Grant Delpit says, "Hey, they got to come into our house." They're on their high horse. Like they were ready. The Browns were ready for this game. They hadn't played football in a couple of weeks because they had the bye week. They were ready, man, and they came out prepared. Kudos to them. Hats off to them. It is what it is. Niners are 5-1. They're still first place. So, Jake Booty. Oh man, Big City Man says, if Moody keeps this up, we'll have gold in the building by week 18. I promise. Baby, before that, 100%. I mean, the memes were crazy. Yo, the memes were crazy today about Robbie Gold. I saw somebody post. I don't remember who posted it, but it's like this shows the kick. He misses the kick, and it's the scene from um that movie. The scene from oh my god, I can't think of the movie. Oh my god. You know what the movie is. They go to Vegas. Why can't I think about the name of this movie? Oh my god, I cannot think about the name of the movie. How am I drawing a blank? Anyways, he's on the phone and he's like, I think we messed up. I think we fucking messed up. It was pretty funny. Susan says they need to fly a flag over Levi. Hangover. Thank you. The Hangover. How did I miss that name? That's a classic movie. Yeah. The meme of the Hangover meme where he's like calling like, "Oh God, I think we messed up." Yeah, it was the Hangover. It was pretty funny. Like people are memeing Jake Moody bad. Susan says they need to fly a flag over Levi's that says, "Attention, faithful, sky's not falling." Yeah, but people take these losses very tough. But again, the 49ers, they got to focus up. These type of losses suck because you know the team should win these type of games. But hey, any given Sunday, the Browns, they're a gritty team. They played chippy, they played tough. They were coming for blood, man. I feel like they were. I don't know if they were a little too physical. I don't know if like they were definitely targeting, but they were a gritty team tonight, and I did not like what I saw out of them. They were coming for blood, man. Let's see. That's a good point. Sati says, I don't think it was the CMC injury. I think it was Debo injury. Things went haywire. Kyle was planning to use them out the screens and jet sweeps. I think that too. I said that earlier. I was talking about how Debo, if you remember, there was a Ray play where he tried to do a jet sweep. There was a play where he went in motion, specifically this play where he went in motion and he like bumped into Trent Williams and they just looked like so off sync. They were trying to use Ray in that Debo role. It just wasn't going right. No disrespect to Ray McLeod. He's not Debo Samuel. So I feel like that right there, you're right. Because again, we always say CMC is so important and he's kind of a catalyst, but so is Debo. Debo is so important in terms of setting plays. He helps set the plays. He helps with the motion. He helps get people in certain spots. His blocking is really critical. Even if he's not getting the ball, he knows where to be in certain spots to help open up plays. Very important players, his team. And I think that changed up how they played. And I think because the 49ers knew this was a physical team, I agree with you, Sati. I think that they were trying to use Debo a lot today. He's a bully, and I think they needed a bully to come out and be the aggressor. And I think they wanted to use Debo today. And today, when Kyle was kind of lost, yeah, I think that he was like, oh, God, because I think they wanted to use Debo, like you said, on those short dump off passes, the little screen plays, the reverses, the jet sweeps, and then sprinkle in CMC also. I think that was his game plan. And when both of those guys were out, it is stressful. So, oh man. Samuel says, better to have a wake up call right now instead of getting in the playoffs. 100%, Saul. That right there. Beautifully said. That right there is the takeaway message of today. Like, hey, Niners lost, but it's better that they got it out of the way. Get it out of the system now. Go on a insanity run again. Let's make a run. It's fine. Eagles lost too, right? So did Real Teal says, thank God the Eagles lost too, or else this Sunday would have hit harder. Way harder. I agree. It's Sunday didn't hit as hard because the Eagles lost that. God, that felt so good, didn't it? Like it felt good to see them lose. I was like, oh man, amazing. You want to know the Rams standings? Let's take a look at NFC standings, then I'm going to bounce out. So, Eagles right now, obviously 5-1. 49ers 5-1. The Lions are 5-1. Those are the top three teams in the NFC. Let's take a look at the NFC West. So the 49ers are 5-1. The Seahawks are 3-2. The Rams are 3-3, and the Cardinals are 1-5. NFC East, the Eagles 5-1, Cowboys 3-2, Commanders 3-3, and the Giants 1-5. So the NFC East and the NFC West are pretty much mirrored on how their teams are lined up right now. And in terms of records, top team to the bottom team 5-1, 1-5, and then two middle of the pack. NFC North, a little bit different. The Lions are 5-1. The Packers are 2-3. The Vikings are 2-4. The Bears are 1-5. The NFC South, 3-2 Buccaneers, 3-2 on top of the division. Falcons are 3-3. The Saints are 3-3, and the Panthers are 0-6. Sheesh. Real Teal says, we stand with you, Jake Moody. Keep your head up. Faithful still loves you, and we know you'll bounce back. I hope he does. I could tell he was sad, man. If you watch that locker room presser, did you see them when the reporters were talking to him in the locker room? Bro looked like he was going to. He looked like he was going to cry. Like his eyes were red. He had a shaky voice. I was like, man, I mean, you got to feel bad for the guy. He looked like he was going to cry. Looking like he was going to cry. Miguel, what's good, my boy? Sati says, I know it's a big change, but John Feliciano has a history of playing right tackle. He was so effective in that Cowboys game. If there is a major injury, you're absolutely right. I think they got, like, if Trent Williams can't play, I need to see Feliciano. I know Jalen Moore is their left tackle, but maybe you move some guys. Man, I like Feliciano too. I agree. I like what you're saying. I think he's effective. He could play tackle. Now, maybe right tackle, but then you still have an issue on left tackle. But if we got to see Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz both line up, there's no words for that. I'm going to be so sick to my stomach. Those two guys, man, Colton McKivitz. Niners need a right tackle, dude. They really do. And at some point, Trent Williams is going to retire. And I don't know what's going to happen with this O-line. The Niners got to win the Super Bowl this year. That's all I got to say. That's rough. Any other questions, concerns? But, yeah, Niners got to get this offensive line fixed up. But again, 5-1. It could be worse. I just wish we were 6-0 because that would have been nice. Would have been nice, Again, they had a chance. Miguel, what happened to the defense? We couldn't stop the run. Yeah, we talked about it earlier, Miguel. If you missed it, I feel like Dre Greenlaw was a huge reason why they couldn't stop the run. His loss was gaping, man. Like it was very evident the 49ers need Dre Greenlaw, and it's a big loss, man. Throwbacks to Spencer Burford didn't have a good game. The whole line didn't have a really good day, other than Trent Williams. And Trent Williams played on a bad ankle. Trent Williams played on a bad ankle, and he was probably the best lineman out there today. That's crazy. Julius says, I think right now tackle is a bigger need than corner. Yeah, absolutely, because Trent Williams might be missing some games, so it definitely is an issue. Corner, this is the thing, and I said this before. It's not like we need a starting cornerback. The two corners are good on the outside. Demo, look at Demo, man. Y'all keep hating on Demo, and every week he makes a big play. I was happy about the guy. And Mooney Ward, he's playing good. Again, Isaiah Oliver, a little inconsistent. But if any of those three go down, that's where the problem is. As long as they stay healthy, we good. But the problem is, it's a tough season, and I don't know if they're going to stay healthy because backups are rough. But I do agree. Tackle might be a little bit more pressing than cornerback. Man. Yeah, Big City. This is why Fred talks high of Dre and all the coaches. Dre, man, He's the beast. Are we worried that they didn't stay on the East Coast? It's a good question. I thought they were supposed to. Nick Wagner reported a couple days ago that they're not doing their East Coast layover, where they usually stay in Youngstown and do all that. They're supposed to be coming back to Cali, and then back to Minnesota. Maybe because they have an extra day because it's Monday night, But I do hate that. I hate the fact that they got to travel again, another long trip to the West Coast, to the East Coast, or Midwest. So yeah, it is a little worrisome, but it is nice to know that it is Monday night and not an early game. So maybe it's not going to hit them as bad. They'll have they'll have an extra day or so to catch up and, adjust to the time and calibrate. But I do feel like they maybe should have stayed over on the other side, but we'll see. I was a little confused as to why they didn't. They usually do it. They always, have their little extended stay on the East Coast. So definitely was something that made me think that. That's a good catch on that. Miguel says this one hurts, but we have to move on to the next. At least the Eagles lost as well, 100%. That's the biggest takeaway, man. Like at the end of the day, like I said in the title of this is the day was salvaged because the Eagles lost. Like it could have been a lot worse day had the Eagles won because they would have been on our head. They would have been talking mess. I mean, they were talking. Whoa, Eagles fans were talking so much today after the Niners lost. Bro, LOL Niners. People were coming at our neck. And I was like, you guys, this game hasn't even finished. Oh, we're not losing to the Jets. We're crushing. We're going 6-0. And now it's crickets. Now, do you hear that? Do you hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of Eagles fans talking because they're not. I love it. I love you guys. Have a good rest of your night. The Eagles fans, quiet. And that's how it should be. You guys have a good rest of your night. Robert Salah, he bailed us out. Shout out to Robert Salah, man. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Robert. Mr. Salah, giving Kyle a favor. You guys have a good rest of your night. Enjoy the week. Try not to get in too much trouble. Don't talk too much trash. Don't talk any trash this week. Please. Do me a favor. Don't talk any trash this week. Big City says Kyle texted Salah and says, I need you. He probably did. Kyle was probably like, bro, I need you. I need you to just beat him. And Salah was like, bro, my quarterback, Zach Wilson, you have a defense. We don't have Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. What do you beat them, please? All right, Kyle, I'll do it, Kyle. Intercept that man 3 times. And Big Bob did that. With that, I'm out. Have a good night.